Parte Cristiano! Sì!
On a small volcanic island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, where towering green mountains meet the endless blue sea, a child was born who would one day change the history of football forever. Few people living in the Portuguese island of Madeira on February 5, 1985, could have imagined that this newborn baby would grow into one of the greatest athletes the world had ever seen. To them, he was simply another boy born into an ordinary family, a family that had little money but an abundance of love, sacrifice, and hope. His name was Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro. Today, billions of people know the name Cristiano Ronaldo. Stadiums erupt when he scores. Millions imitate his celebrations. Children from every corner of the world dream of becoming the next Ronaldo. But before the trophies, before the Ballon d'Or awards, before the Champions League nights, before the roar of "Su" echoed around the world, there was only a little boy running through the narrow streets of Madeira with one dream, a football at his feet. Cristiano was the youngest of 4 children. His mother, Maria Dolores dos Santos Aveiro, worked long hours to help support the family. His father, José Diniz Aveiro, worked as a municipal gardener and also helped care for equipment at a local football club. Their lives were built around hard work, not luxury. The family lived modestly. Money was always tight, and every expense had to be considered carefully. There were no expensive holidays, no lavish birthday celebrations, and no guarantee that tomorrow would be easier than today. Yet despite these hardships, the Aveiro family remained close. Cristiano would later speak with deep gratitude about the sacrifices his mother made to keep the family together. Those sacrifices became one of the foundations of his determination. Watching his parents work tirelessly taught him that nothing worthwhile comes easily. His middle name, Ronaldo, also carried an interesting story. It was chosen in admiration of former U.S. President Ronald Reagan, who was popular in Portugal at the time and had also been a film actor before entering politics. No one could have guessed that this name would one day become one of the most recognized in sports history. From an early age, football wasn't simply a game for Cristiano, it was his escape. While other children played for fun after school, Cristiano seemed unable to stay away from the ball. If there was space to kick one, he would find it. If there wasn't, he would create it. The narrow streets of Madeira became his first training ground. The uneven pavement taught him balance. The hills strengthened his legs. The constant games against older children forced him to think faster and move quicker. Without realizing it, every afternoon was preparing him for the challenges that lay ahead. His family quickly noticed that football occupied his thoughts almost every waking hour. Friends remembered that he rarely wanted to do anything else. Whenever school ended, his destination was almost always the nearest place where he could play. Teachers reportedly found it difficult to separate Cristiano from football. Even in the classroom, his imagination often wandered back to the sport he loved more than anything else. For many children, football was a hobby. For Cristiano, it was beginning to feel like a purpose. Even at a young age, another quality started to appear, an extraordinary competitive spirit. Losing was painful for him. Not because of pride alone, but because he genuinely believed he could always do better. If his team lost, he didn't simply shrug it off and move on. He replayed every mistake in his mind. He wanted another chance. Another game. Another opportunity to prove himself. This relentless desire to improve would later become one of the defining characteristics of his career. People often talk about Ronaldo's talent. But those who knew him as a child frequently noticed something else first: his determination. Talent opened doors. Determination kept pushing them wider. When Cristiano was around 8 years old, he joined the local club Andorinha, where his father also worked in a supporting role. It wasn't a glamorous club. The facilities were simple, and resources were limited. But for Cristiano, it was paradise. Every training session became another chance to learn. Every match became another opportunity to stand out. Coaches quickly realized that the energetic young boy possessed exceptional speed, balance, and confidence with the ball. He wasn't physically the biggest child on the pitch. He wasn't the strongest either. But he had something that couldn't be measured: an intense desire to become better than he had been yesterday. Soon afterward, he moved to Nacional, another club on Madeira that offered stronger competition. Facing better players only fueled his ambition. The higher the challenge, the harder Cristiano worked. His teammates began noticing a pattern. Training rarely ended when the coaches blew the whistle. Cristiano often wanted to stay longer. More shots, more dribbles, more sprints. While others headed home, he searched for ways to improve. This obsession with improvement would become the hallmark of his entire career. Looking back today, it's easy to believe greatness was inevitable. But nothing about Cristiano's future was guaranteed. He came from a family without wealth. He lived far from Portugal's major football centers. Thousands of talented children across Europe dreamed of becoming professionals. Most never made it. At that stage, Cristiano wasn't famous. He wasn't a global sensation. He was simply another ambitious boy hoping someone would notice his ability. Yet deep inside, something separated him from almost everyone around him. He refused to let circumstances define his future. Every difficult day strengthened his resolve. Every challenge became another reason to keep moving forward. Without realizing it, the island of Madeira was quietly shaping a champion, not only through football, but through resilience, humility, and relentless effort. The mountains he climbed as a child would later remind him that every summit requires sacrifice. The ocean surrounding his home would become a symbol of the vast world waiting beyond the island. And somewhere in the distance, a dream far bigger than Madeira was beginning to take shape. Soon, that dream would demand an impossible choice. At just 12 years old, Cristiano Ronaldo would leave everything he had ever known, his family, his friends, and the island he called home, to pursue a future that no one could promise.